Cryptids are mainly plants, animals, and other eukaryotes not recognized by the scientific community or thought to be extinct, but some believe they are still alive today. Cryptids are creatures whose existence is based on alleged sightings with varying degrees of supporting evidence. Some of these alleged creatures have origins spanning that to antiquity, with their presence believed to have been recorded in myth and legend, while others are thought to have taken new evolutionary paths and evolved from previously existing creatures into new variations. The Kraken is a colossal sea monster. It's said to dwell off the coasts of Norway and Greenland. In 2012, scientists discovered the giant squid, which corresponded with the physical descriptions of the Kraken. Due to the Kraken's supposed size and fearsome appearance, it's been made a common ocean-dwelling monster in many fictional works. It's also one of the biggest cryptids in cryptozoology. It could be possible that the Kraken could have been early sightings of a colossal squid. Quote-unquote Kraken dung has been found on the shores by Vikings, but has been proven to be amber. The legend may have originated from sightings of real giant squids that are variously estimated to grow to 13 to 30 plus meters, or 43 to 100 plus feet, in length, including their tentacles. These creatures normally live at great depths, but have been sighted at the surface and have reportedly attacked ships. The Loch Ness Monster, otherwise known as Nessie, is one of, if not the most popular cryptid, virtually being the symbol of cryptozoology next to Bigfoot, and has some of the most media coverage aside from grey aliens and Bigfoot. It's a type of lake monster found in Scotland, with its first sighting around 565 AD. Witnesses state it's sleek, with rubbery blackish grey skin, and being roughly 20 foot long. If Nessie's an animal, it had to have had a mother, and at one point there had to have been a viable breeding population of the species. However, some more unconventional theories suggest that Nessie comes from some type of space-time anomaly causing a plesiosaur, basilosaur, or even some say a sauropod to be transported to present day. But even stranger theories suggest genetic experimentation and mutations, though these are all considered very unlikely and of course presume the creature exists in the first place. These creatures inhabit the alpine forest of Bavaria, Germany. Its body is typically made up of various animal parts like wings, antlers, tails, and fangs, all attached to the body of a small animal. The most widespread description being that of a horned rabbit or horned squirrel. Stuffed quote-unquote wolpertingers composed of parts of actual stuffed animals are often displayed in inns or sold to tourists as souvenirs in the animal's quote-unquote native regions. This museum in Munich features a permanent exhibit on the creature, but this creature is regarded same with its counterpart, the jackalope and Skvada, as a hoax. The lamb of Tartary, also known as the vegetable lamb of Tartary, the Scythian lamb, Agnus cythus or Planta tartarica barometz, or simply vegetable lamb, is a legendary creature of Central Asia. It was believed to grow sheep in the same manner that a tree grows fruit, which connected to a plant by an umbilical cord. This stem could flex downwards, allowing the lamb to feed on the grass and plants surrounding it. Once the plants within reach were eaten, the lamb died. Then, after expiring, the lamb became edible, and its blood supposedly tasted sweet like honey. Its wool was said to be used by the native people of its homeland to make head coverings and other articles of clothing. The only carnivorous animals attracted to the lamb plant other than humans were wolves. A similar creature appears in early Jewish folklore tales called the Yedwa. It appears to be a lamb but sprouted from a stem rising from the earth. The only way to kill the strange creature was to sever the connection between the lamb and the stem. Thereafter, the bones of the Yedwa could be used during prophetic ceremonies. In some versions of the tale, the lamb plant is highly aggressive and snatches up any poor soul within reach. These tales of Jewish folklore could be the origin of the lamb of Tartary. It is possible that the lamb of Tartary could have been based on Sebotum barometz, a plant whose woolly rhizome, once its leaves were removed and is turned upside down, resembles a lamb that is attached to a plant. The Basan Basa Basa is a mythical creature from Japanese folklore. It is described as a gigantic chicken with the ability to breathe fire. The fire itself is cold and doesn't burn. When the Basan flaps its wing, an eerie rustling, basa basa, can be heard. Supposedly, if a human hears the sound and looks outside, the bird's form will suddenly vanish. This creature was said to live in the bamboo forest within the mountains of Iyo province, today Ehime prefecture. meaning dirt child or child of the hammer, is a snake-like cryptid from mountainous regions of western Japan. These creatures are commonly reported as slithering deep within the watery caves of Shikoku and Honshu. They are reported to be between 30 and 80 centimeters long. The name Tsuchinoko is used in western Japan, however it's known as Bachihebi in northeastern Japan. It has a total of 50 plus names all over Japan. Although there are some dependencies throughout the various sightings, the Tsuchinoko is widely regarded to look like a very wide common snake, with a central girth wider than its head and tail. It reportedly has fangs and venom similar to common snakes. Some accounts also describe the Tsuchinoko as being able to jump to a meter, followed immediately by a second jump or in the air, essentially double jumping. It is also reported to sometimes swallow its tail and roll like a wheel, similar to the hoop snake or Ouroboros. According to legend, some Tsuchinoko are also able to speak and are notorious liars, as well as have a strong taste for alcohol. The Tsuchinoko is also referenced in the Kojiki, the oldest book about the history of Japan. El Chupacabra is a cryptid that is renowned for its attacks on livestock, hence the Spanish name, the goatsucker. It supposedly eats chickens, goats, and other farm animals and pets. It has been reported all over the Americas, specifically the southwestern US, Mexico, and Puerto Rico. The most common description of the Chupacabra is a strange breed of wild dog. This form is mostly hairless and has a pronounced spinal ridge, unusually pronounced eye sockets, fangs, and claws. It is claimed that this breed might be an example of a dog-like reptile. Unlike conventional predators, the Chupacabra is said to drain all the animal's blood, and sometimes organs, through 3 holes in the shape of an upside-down triangle, or through 1 or 2 holes. Another description of the Chupacabra, although not as common, describes a reptile-like creature appearing to have leathery or scaly greenish-grey skin, sharp spines or quills running down its back, and in some cases leathery wings. The form stands approximately 3 to 4 feet high. It stands and hops in a similar fashion to a kangaroo. In at least one sighting, the creature was reported to hop 20 feet. This variety is said to have a dog or panther-like nose and face, a forked tongue and large fangs. It is said to hiss and screech when alarmed, as well as leave back behind a sulphurous stench. When it screeches, some reports assert that the Chupacabra's eyes glow an unusual red, which gives the witnesses nausea. In Hood County, Texas, in July 2010, local animal control officers shot and killed an alleged Chupacabra. Texas A&M University scientists conducted tests on it and found it to be a coyote-dog hybrid with mange and internal parasites. The Wendigo, also known as the Windigo, Windago, Witico, and several other variants, is a cannibalistic spirit resembling a zombie. In some forms, the Wendigo is the size of a human, while in others it could be 15 foot tall. The earliest description of the Wendigo was that of a similar appearance to a corpse, with a skeleton-like thin body with grey skin, sunken eyes, bloody lips, yellow fangs, and a long slimy tongue. It can turn the person into a Wendigo, which was one of the worst curses to Algonquian-speaking Native Americans of Canada. Mothman is described as a bipedal winged humanoid. Despite the name, which was given to him by newspapers, he is in no way moth-like and has an appearance more like that to a large humanoid owl. His coloration varies from black, grey to even brown, although it is usually the darker shades. He is often reported to be around 7 foot tall with a wingspan about 10 to 15 foot or more, plus the ability to fly over 100 miles per hour. Sometimes he is described as not having a head, but instead the 2 large red eyes are at his chest, which have been said to glow or are at least reflective. The details of his face and his feet have never been adequately described. One witness who saw the face clearly could only say that the details were horrible and monstrous. The likely explanation could be that it was a barn owl, as witnesses seem to describe it more in line with an allusion to driving, and other sightings could be misidentifications and calls for attention. A bit of context. These cryptids aren't very well known, so they're mostly legends rather than accounts and cryptids, so yeah. According to the Bambara people of West Africa, the Kikiawan's name can conjure a look of horror. They say it resembles a large owl, especially its head. It has a large beak and raking talons on its arms and feet. In many respects, it's a mixture of a bird and a human. The Bambara people say it's a huge pair of feathered wings which grow from its back, the shoulder joint of which is tipped with a sharp spur. The Kikiaon is said to be covered in short greenish hair, and some reports speak of it having a short tufted tail. It has many different calls, but the most common one is of a deep-throated grunting, which carries on for miles. This call resembles that of the giant Pell's fishing owl. Its other call is that of a strangled cry it utters deep from the throat. This then becomes a screaming, which can be linked to that of a man being strangled slowly. In Bantu folklore, gourds and pumpkins have the potential to grow into huge devouring creatures. Such plants are said to grow where evil sorcerers or ogres were slain. Here is the legend. A group of boys find a large gourd that keeps growing. The gourd threatens them, saying, "If you pluck me, I'll pluck you." These boys run home to tell their families, which don't believe them. Besides their sisters, who come with the boys, who taunt the gourd but get no reaction from it. The sisters go home to complain about them being liars. The gourd then continues to grow to be the size of a house and uproots itself and eats everything in the surrounding area and rolls into a lake and sits in it. A pregnant woman survived, and when her son was born, they decided to live in the ruins. When the child asked where his father was, his mother told her that he was eaten. The son decided to avenge his father. He goes to the lake and taunts the gourd, kills it and cuts it open, where everyone came out fine and he became the leader of the village. Another supposed case was where a pumpkin grew over a shape-shifting porcupine's grave. It repeated anything it was told, and when someone was about to cut off its stem, it ate everyone. It is said to be a surviving species of a theropod dinosaur, such as Tyrannosaurus rex or Giganotosaurus, as the cryptid's namesake, although quite a low possibility. If it is indeed a living African theropod, it is likely a species of Spinosaurid, Abelosaurid, Allosauride, or a Carcharodontosaurid, as there have been no known species of Tyrannosaurid ever recorded and depicted in Africa. It has also been depicted as a species of gigantic monitor lizard, as well as a species of bipedal terrestrial crocodile. A theropod similar, potentially larger in the size and overall shape, was reported and lived in Africa. It is none other than Carcharodontosaurus saharicus. The Carcharodontosaurus was one of the apex predators of early Cretaceous Africa, and was also known to compete for food and territory with Spinosaurus aegypticus, Paharosus ingens, and Deltadromedas. Carcharodontosaurus saharicus was a 30 to 45 foot long carnivore from northern Africa, as well as some parts of South Africa. Both creatures lived in swampy places around 70 million years ago. They would have eaten Paratylian, Ouranosaurus, Egyptosaurus, and if needed, scavenging Abelosaurugops. This could explain the species, but not necessarily the existence of the Cassairex, and is widely believed to be a hoax. Tiddalik is an indigenous Dreamtime legend in Australia that was first recorded in the late 1800s. It is said that it drank all the water in Australia and caused a flood afterwards. The Tiddalik is described as a giant species of Cyclorona, which is a genus of tree frogs from Australia that are entirely terrestrial, unlike its many tree-dwelling relatives. Surviving in the most arid areas of Australia, frogs in the Cyclorona genus can survive for over 4 years underground after storing a large amount of water in their bladder. This has given them the name water-holding frogs, due to the fact that they store an immense amount of water within their bodies. The Tiddalik is most likely a species of Cyclorona, or at least inspired off of them. In the myth, the Tiddalik woke up with a major thirst and began to drink all the fresh water in Australia. Everything green started dying due to this. The other animals conspired against the Tiddalik and devised a plan to make him release all the water he consumed. This was successfully coordinated by the wise owl, when Nabanum the eel made Tiddalik laugh by tying himself into comical shapes. As Tiddalik laughed, the water rushed out of him to replenish the lakes, swamps, and rivers. The bunyip, also known as the Kian Prati, is a creature from the Aboriginal mythology in southeastern Australia. It is said to live in swamps, billabongs, creeks, riverbeds, and waterholes. The word bunyip translates to devil or evil spirit from the Wemba Wemba language. Physical descriptions of the bunyip vary. Some say it has a dog-like face, dark fur or horse-like tail, flippers, walrus-like tusks or crocodile-like head, and a duck-like bill. There are even claims that it resembles a snake with a beard. While its wide range of descriptions make it difficult to determine its appearance, it is agreed that the bunyip is aquatic. The bunyip could be the misidentification of a known species, with suggestions such as a leopard, elephant seals, cassowaries, and Australasian bitterns. It is also believed the bunyip could be a surviving diprotodon or other extinct Australasian marsupials. The Hook Island sea monster, also known as the tadpole creature, it resembles that of a giant black sperm, has a gaping mouth with small teeth and eyes placed on top of its head. Some of its sightings describe it like this. The head was large, about 4 feet from top to bottom, with jaws about 4 foot wide. The lower jaw was flat like that of a sandfish. The skin was smooth but rather dull, brownish black in colour. The eyes seemed pale green, almost white. There were no fins or spines, nor were there any apparent breathing openings, although there must have been some. Another account states this. The creature was about 90 foot long. Behind the head, the body was about 2 feet 4 inches thick, and remained that way for about 25 feet when it gradually tapered into a whip-like tail. The general colour of the body was black, with a 1 foot wide brownish grey rings every 5 feet. The first starting just behind the head. The skin was smooth but dull. Thank you for watching all the way through this documentary. It was probably a little boring, to be honest. This is pre-production, me talking, so I'm not really sure. But that's besides the point. I had quite some fun making this small little, I don't know if you would call it a documentary or a video essay, just a little project that I've been working on for my final major project. That's about it, I guess. I hope I informed you well, and yeah, I might make a new one soon if I feel like it. Adios. Carconodora, a theropod similar, potentially larger in the size and overall shape, was reported and lived in Africa. It is none other than Carconodorosaurus. The gourd then continues to grow to be the size of a house and uproots itself and eats everything in the surrounding area and rolls into a lake and sits in it. A pregnant woman who survived, and when her son was born, they lived in the... What the fuck? It is said to be a surviving species of a theropod dinosaur, such as Tyrannosaurus rex, Giganotosaurus... Oh wait, no. The bunyip could be the oh my god! And oh my menacing mouth, the inside of which was whitish, the teeth opened. No! The Hook Island sea monster, also known as the tadpole creature, is a name given to a 90-foot sea monster sighted off the coast of Hook Island. It also resembles... Not also...